morning here, right? Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program from the 1963-64 St. Louis Cardinals and Chicago White Sox pitcher, first baseman. I welcome in Jeoff Long. Jeoff, great to have you. Honor to speak to you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Glad to be here with you.
Oh, my pleasure. And, reading your career, Jeoff, growing up as a youngster, from what I gather, you were a big Cincinnati Redlegs fan. And tell me if this is true. Johnny Temple, who played second base for the Redlegs, he was one of your idols growing up. But you had a bad experience with Temple, right?
Well, not real bad, but pretty much all of the Reds in those years, from the time I was a young kid, were my idols, so to speak. And I think it was just a deal where Temple might have bypassed me. I was at the game and hollered out to him or something, and he just didn't look my way or whatever. But later on, in an old-timers clinic we used to have here in Cincinnati, Johnny came to one of them, two baseball alumni, and I got to sit down and talk with him a little bit, and I kind of brought that up to him. He just kind of laughed about it, but really a good guy, which
now,
all those guys were.
Yeah. Now, one of your teammates, Harry Fanuc, back in '61, claimed that you had the most natural, strongest arm he ever seen. I mean, that you could throw a flat-footed football about 60 yards. Is that a fact?
Well, I never had any measurements or anything like that, but I did have a good arm. I mean, basically that was what the Cardinals signed me on out of high school in '59. Mm-hmm. And after that, during the end of my senior year in '59, I pitched a 13-inning game in a district championship game, and from that point on, my arm was never the same, and kind of felt bad about it. My first year was pretty much a failure. And in 1960 at Winston-Salem, I wasn't doing any better. I just didn't have any heat. I guess they'd call it a tired arm today or whatever. So I hope I'm not boring you, but I went to my manager, Chase Riddle, and I said, the Cardinals gave me a couple dollars here, and I almost feel like if I can't do any better than what I'm doing, I ought to give it back. But I'd like to try a chance to play, and Chase gave me a chance to pinch hit and a little bit and play a few games. And, I could always hit pretty good, and things seemed to work out for me in that respect.
Yeah, so now it was near midnight. I believe the date was June 19th, 1959. Cardinal scouts,
right.
one of the scouts, Eddie Lyons, he was the one that signed you. You were 17 years old at the time, right?
Well, it was Eddie Lyons, but the number one guy was Mo Mosali out of Louisville. And I'd been courted by just about every team. I think there were 16 teams back at that time. And but Mo, he was a Louisville guy, and he came up, and I had some pretty good offers, but mainly I had it kind of boiled down to the Reds and the Cardinals. But I just had such a relationship with Mo, I just couldn't turn him down, and I never regretted it either. I mean, the Cardinals are to me the greatest organization in baseball. So. Mo's gone now, but he was a wonderful man.
Yeah. Now you came up during the time I believe Tim McCarver came up. Now Tim McCarver and you guys formed a battery, right? You were the pitcher, he was your catcher. How was a young Tim McCarver?
Well, we were together. He was my first roommate at Keokuk, Iowa, in the Midwest League when I signed in '59. And we became roommates throughout the years whenever we played together. of course, Harry was probably my number one roommate, and both of them were my two best friends, I'd say, in baseball. Although I had many, but McCarver was he was a great guy, and he was he's one of the toughest competitors that I ever saw or played with.
And a brilliant baseball mind, but he was really good at that age, right? As a rookie player, huh?
Oh yeah, he had the tools, and I'd say that he was destined to make it. There was no question about that. He was the kind of guy that basically willed himself to be a great competitor. And he played, like all of us did when we were taught in the Cardinal chain, from the old Gas House Gang days to play hard and tough and good baseball. So you mentioned Harry there. My arm, I think, was a shade behind his because he was definitely he threw the best smoke that I ever saw. No question about that. There's a lot of stories between the two of us, but I don't know if I should go into them or not.
Yeah, please. Give us a story about Harry Fanack. I mean, he you're right. He had a lightning of an arm. I mean, he could throw the fastball, no question.
Yeah, he led the three leagues. He led the Texas League and the International League in strikeouts and probably the Northern League. But one little story that we were playing the Pirates in spring training, I believe it was in '64, and I don't know. I know you probably don't remember Al McBean, but he was a Pirates reliever, and he wore sunglasses, and he was a little bit cocky, but he liked to throw at people on occasion, and he happened to knock Kenny Boyer, our third baseman, down. It was around the second or third inning. And it didn't sit well with Johnny Keene, the manager, and Harry was coming in from the pen. And Keene stopped him and said, we need to retaliate a little bit here. So he goes out in the top of the fourth, and it just so happened McBean's the leadoff hitter. And he didn't hit the guy, but he knocked him down 2 or 3 times. And anyway, at the end of the inning, McCarver was behind the plate. He came in the dugout, and I said, I noticed after the second or third knockdown, McBean mentioned something to you. And he says, yeah, he did. He said he wanted to know if this guy was always that wild. So that was a pretty good story. He's trying to drill him, really, but Harry refutes that, but it was a true story. But I saw him pitch. Come on, go ahead, Brian.
No, go ahead.
No, I say Harry was... it's a shame that he got hurt because when he was in Atlanta, sent back to Atlanta in '63, I hadn't been called up to the Cardinals just yet. Got called up in July, I think it was 19th of that summer. But we had Sam Jones, who we had acquired from Toronto, and probably had the greatest curveball in the history of baseball. And he was working with Harry on that curveball. And he was doing well, learning and so on. And then he had the arm problem, and he was never able to get through it. Sad deal, really, because he would have been one of the top dogs, no question. Joe Morgan, do you remember Joe Morgan, the manager of the Red Sox?
Yeah, yep, I know the name.
Yeah, a few years back. Well, we were teammates at Atlanta as well, and when Joe was managing the Red Sox. And anyway, they interviewed him about Harry, and he said that he never saw anybody that could throw any better, and that included, he managed the Rocket, Roger Clemens, so that's a lot to be said for that. Anyways, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so 1963, that Cardinals team. I mean, you had McCarver, you had Dick Grote, that was Stan Musial's last season. Stan Musial, was he a good man? Was he good to you? Did he take you in, Stan Musial?
Oh, he was wonderful. I don't know how you describe Stan other than the nickname he had. Well, fit the guy, that's for sure. But Stan was a kind guy, and he liked to kind of joke around with you. I remember one little story. He come down to the instructional league, and several guys got around the batting cage. The Cardinals used to send their big stars down there to work with us young guys. So question came up. We're all standing around Stan and said, Stan, what is the secret? What's the key to this hitting stuff? And Stan had a bat in his hand. He pointed to just above the label on a Louisville Slugger, about 5-6 inches. He pointed to that, and he said, all you got to do is, boys, is put that part of the bat on the ball, and he said, you'll get a lot of hits. Everybody kind of laughed and that, but that's the truth of it. Stan was quite a guy. I know Corky came to our team that year at the end of the year, but I was on the team from July on that year, and I was able to, attend all the teams around the league. All had a night for Stan, and in honor of him, as many years in that as he played, and it was really nice to observe that. And the last day in St. Louis was quite a day because it was a little bit sad, but I was glad I was able to, be there and see that in person.
And we're talking with Jeoff Long. He played for the Cardinals and the White Sox, mid-'60s. He's with us this morning. Now, reading your biography, Jeoff, tell me if this is true. You and Bob Gibson are linked together. Did you pinch hit for Bob Gibson in your Major League debut? Is that a fact?
Yeah, I did. I pinch hit for Bob against none other than the Cincinnati Reds, my hometown team in St. Louis, and Jim O'Toole was on the mound. And I fouled off a couple of pretty good pitches, and then I struck out. And I didn't even realize I was up at the plate when I got back to the dugout. I think somebody had to kind of slap me in the face. But speaking of Gibson, the toughest that I ever saw, and I've always told people that if I was being penciled in to a lineup and my life was on the line, the man on the mound for me would be none other than Bob Gibson. He's a great guy. Gibson was he was always nice to me. All those guys, Flood, White, they were all good people.
And how about now? Did you face Sandy Koufax during your career?
I sure. There's another story for you.
Please.
In spring training of '64, every morning you usually get up and you have breakfast and maybe pick up the sports page. And there used to be a place across the street from where we had our headquarters. And I walked in. I don't know if I was eating breakfast. I might have been eating breakfast with Harry, but I pick up the sports page there, and it says Koufax to make debut against Cardinals today. So I'm thinking, I doubt I'll be in the lineup. But anyway, at any rate, when you get to the ballpark, you walk in the clubhouse, and the first thing you do is you check the chalkboard just to see, if you might be in there. And boys, lo and behold, I look, and there I am hitting behind Boyer. I'm hitting fifth. I thought, boy, what an experience this is going to be. Anyway, before the game, we're sitting down in the dugout, and the Dodgers bullpen is along the third base side down the left field line, and Sandy was warming up, and I'm trying to, stay loose or kind of joke around, and Boyer happened to be sitting next to him. I said, who's that young rookie down there, that left-hander, number 32? And he looked at me and he smiled. He says, you know who that is. Anyway, my first bat, I walk up to the plate, and the first pitch, I hit a shot to right center. I hit a double off the right center field wall in Al Lang Field. And I'm standing on second base, and I'm saying, boy, I think I just reached the pinnacle. If you get a hit off this guy, you can hit anybody.
Wow.
That's a pretty good story. And I'll go ahead and mention that I got another hit that day. it was 2-3, and we beat the Dodgers. And on opening night that year in L.A., I pinch hit again in the ninth inning against Sandy for Ernie Broglio, and I hit a line drive base hit in the center field. So I was thinking, Sandy's probably thinking he's going to have to figure a way to get me out.
I mean, that is unbelievable. You always hit lefties well.
Yeah, very well. I couldn't wait to get to the park. There was a couple that I didn't like to go against too much. Mickey Lolich was one, and I can't think of a couple others. Dick Ellsworth maybe, but I hit lefties good. And there's no question about that. But it's the old story where it's like the switch hitters. You have that breaking ball coming towards you instead of going away, and it makes a difference. And speaking of left-handed pitchers, Warren Spahn, the winningest left-hander of all times.
Yes.
Got a base hit off him in Milwaukee. And in the same game, I'm playing right field, and, Spahn was noted as a good hitter, and he hit a high drive into right field, and the wall wasn't that high, and I went back and had to jump a little bit and grabbed it. And last out of the inning, and he's waiting at the mound. We had to run across the infield. He hollers at me, he says, "Why didn't you let that go?" It'd have been a home run if I hadn't caught it. But great experience.
I was going to say, Jeoff, you started out as a pitcher, but you could hit the ball. I read that there were teammates that said you were built like the great Jimmy Fox.
I guess there were some stories, you hear these comparisons and things of that nature, but I was pretty much learning more about hitting from an educational or a mental standpoint, because when I was at Atlanta in '63, Harry the Hat, was our manager there, and I had gotten off to a real great start, and that was hitting over 300, and then things started to go haywire. And the Hat kind of reminded me that you got to realize a lot of times there's pitchers that you're not going to give you anything to hit, period. And as a result of that, a lot of times you'll get yourself out because you're just not thinking in those terms. And it's a big part of hitting. If you don't use your skull just a little bit, you're probably going to have troubles, especially at that level. So.
And Jeoff, so you're playing for the Cardinals in '63, part of '64, and then the Cardinals sell you to the White Sox. Were you upset that you were heading to Chicago?
Yeah, I have to admit it. It was a big shock to me. I had a good spring that year in '64, and I'd made the team, and I didn't play a lot in the outfield, and I'm playing behind Bill White, and who was a perennial, pretty much all-star, at first base. So it was difficult for me to get in the line. I got in the lineup. Bill was having some problems with his shoulder on a Friday and Saturday, and against the Braves, and had a successful night. He had a couple hits and hit what they said was one of the longest shots in the history of the old Busch Stadium. Hit a home run off the light tower up above the Redbird sign.
Wow.
So, just another story of, the journey going on through.
Yeah, I
didn't feel good about the Sox deal, but it was probably a good deal for me, because when I went over there, Al Lopez immediately put me in the lineup, and things were going okay. And I guess 3 or 4 days after I was there, they made another deal and got Moose Skowron, the ex-Yankee. They got him from Washington, so they moved me to the outfield for a game, and I had a little mishap there with the knee, and after that, things just pretty much went haywire with, physical problems and stuff.
Yeah, I know the White Sox had high hopes, about you, because in the Sporting News, I mean, I even have a copy of the Sporting News. It says that Long could be a big help for the White Sox, and this was quoted in the Sporting News because they needed some punch power at that time.
Right, we had the pitching, but the power. Well, when they got Skyron, it was a big asset as well. But to make a long story short, there that year we finished one game behind the Yankees, and the Cardinals, won the National League pennant. And the Sox had a great team. They had the great pitching with Hoyt Wilhelm in the bullpen, and Gary Peters, Horland, Buzz Hart, Pizarro. It was really a great pitching staff. But I got into a deal. I got traded back again that year with Ray Herbert to the Phillies, and I got no better, so I was returned to the Sox, and I went to Lynchburg, Virginia for rehab and that, and it just didn't work out, and I got released, and I went down to Jacksonville. I don't know if this was in the story or not, but re-signed with the Cardinals at that point, and had an opportunity to maybe get the job in '66 with St. Louis at first base, but it didn't work out because I had a operation on my knee, and the operation failed, and that was the end of the story pretty much.
And then playing for AAA Tulsa, you replaced the Willie Montañez, right? Did you enjoy playing?
Well, I love Tulsa. That was my favorite place. In '61, I played there. In '62, as a matter of fact, we won the Texas League Championship in '62 in the playoffs, ironically against Corky's team, the Austin Senators. And I went back. Well, after I had this operation, I was out 3 years trying to rehab my knee, and I went back in '69. The Cardinals were good enough to let me have another chance to play, and I tried, but things didn't work out. But it was, I did. I didn't really totally replace Montanez, but I got an opportunity to try to play again. And at that time, Ted Simmons, who just went in the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, became good friends with Ted Simmons pretty much.
Jeoff, also, we have to remind everyone, in 1999, Golf Digest noted that you were one of the best long driving forces in golf. Talk about how you got into golf.
Oh, man. I played, I don't know if I had that great a game, but in 1975, at the club I belonged to, there was rumors going around that there was going to be a national long driving title or championship being held by Golf Digest and I think the PGA Tour or whatever. And I didn't pay any attention to it for the most part, and I thought maybe the guys were just kidding around about it because I was hitting the ball pretty good. Anyway, I found out maybe a week or so later that there actually was going to be one. So the guys asked me, are you going to go and qualify or whatever? So I did. I went up and hit in a regional qualifier in Chicago, and I won that. I think I hit it 307 and something. And I beat one of the big tour hitters in those days, John Jacobs. But that qualified me for the finals at I think it was Butler National Golf Club in Chicago. And there were like 18 guys, and 6 of the 18 were actual touring pros. One of them was Jim Distance Dent, the big guy, colored guy that was a long hitter. At any rate, somehow or another, the good Lord provided me with some sort of swing where I was able to prevail that day. I was one of the last guys to hit because they had a long thunderstorm during the course of the event, which delayed it for about an hour. We were hitting on a polo field, and it was like a swimming pool out there, they said. But I think we got 9 balls, and they could choose either to hit all 9 or 3, 3 and 3, 6 and 3, or whatever. I chose to hit 6. And then my first 2, I snapped, looked, and my third ball, I think I hit like 317 and something. And my fourth one, I hit it 322 and 28 inches. And believe it or not, it was 318 on a fly and 28 inches roll because of the soft ground. But it was good enough to win the thing, and I ended up being national long drive champion. And I don't think the tour guys were too happy about it. I hit again. Go ahead.
No, that's amazing. But they're telling me I have like less than a minute left. Now, do you still follow the game of baseball? Do you still enjoy it?
Yeah, Harry might have told you, we just went to a 60-year reunion up in St. Louis back in July of the 64, world champion Cardinals. There are 18 guys that were alive, but only 7 of us were able to attend. And we were able to take a family member, and that all, expenses taken care of by the Cardinals. And they drove us around the stadium in the golf carts and introduced us along with the 2004 pennant-winning Cardinals who lost the series that year to Boston. But it was a wonderful experience and got to see some of the old folks. I was hoping Bob Uecker would show up there, and especially Bill White, the old first baseman.
Yes.
Because Bill still owes me a sweater for being on. He had a little radio show in St. Louis, and it was the star of the game deal. And he never gave me my sweater. So I was going to kind of bug him about it. But anyway, man, it was a great experience. I mean, I can't say enough about that. I don't follow it as closely as I used to, but I'm still a fan, and I'm a member of the baseball alumni, and so on.
So Jeoff, there's so much more to talk about. We got to do a part 2 if you're up to it. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Are we done now, or should I stay on?
Yeah. So we're done. Thank you so much. Great job, and we'll speak soon. Jeoff Long of the 63-64 St. Louis Cardinals, Chicago White Sox. Until next year. Next year, the new year, 2025. Happy collecting to all.